Can you remember the first time that you heard about Middle-earth? Maybe it was on a drive with your dad and he played the BBC dramatization for you on the car radio. Or maybe your favorite teacher in primary school gave you a copy of The Hobbit because you were a gifted reader. Or maybe you were like me and your mom put on the VCD, because it was way back then, of The Fellowship of the Ring when you were just a little one. And that was the first time that you entered this amazing place that so many of us around the world now call home. And I guess that's basically why I'm here today, making this the first video of my new channel, because a long time ago I was introduced to Lord of the Rings, and I figured that kind of reflecting on where I came from and how I got into this is a really good foot to start off on, especially given the context, because for posterity's sake, this is the 19th of January 2022 that I'm recording this video, and today the teaser was just released for the Rings of Power, the new Amazon TV show for the Lord of the Rings. So that's pretty huge, and this comes just on the heels, like a month later, since the 20th anniversary of the Fellowship of the Ring. So I figured I'd just talk about, why Tolkien? Why Tolkien then? Why Tolkien now? And why Tolkien always for me? Since, I mean, the whole reason that I'm starting this channel is because it's going to be always for me, because I'm never going to get tired of exploring Middle-earth by myself with my friends. The purpose of this channel isn't just to dig into the lore. There are plenty of other channels who do that and do that great. I'm here because I want to work through my own thoughts and feelings about these stories as I read them and as I reflect on them. And I think that's why reflection is a great place to start. Go back to your roots, deep roots that are not reached by the frost, as it were. So I suppose the place to start is, why I came to Tolkien and why I stayed. When I was 6 years old, my mom could tell that I was a nerdy kid, I was a special kid, and I had already read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I liked it. I liked the portal fantasy, I liked going to another world, I liked the story, I liked the heroes, the battles, and overthrowing the White Witch. And I think that she felt that, okay, now's a good time to bring out the big guns, and she put on the Fellowship of the Ring for myself and my sister. And I can tell you the exact moment that I fell in love with Middle-earth. It was at the point in the film when the Fellowship is attacked by the Watcher in the Water and they get stuck in the mines of Moria. And Gandalf lights up his staff and he says, "Beyond your God, there are older and fouler things in the deep places of the world." And I remember a chill going down my spine, because I suddenly had a glimpse into this world that was a lot bigger and older and deeper than I'd anticipated, even though I was just 6 and I didn't understand everything about the story. I understood the general thrust of the narrative, but I didn't obviously understand the more complex things, the complex themes of it. But I heard that amazing soundtrack, and I'm a musician, so music speaks to me. And the music, combined with that line from Gandalf, opened up for me what I now refer to, using Tolkien's own words from his letters, as the unattainable Vistas. So in one of his letters, Tolkien talked about how he talked about the appeal of the Lord of the Rings, why people like it so much. And he spoke about, these unattainable vistas, these glimpses of city towers in the distance, and how, some of the magic would be lost if you were to go to those vistas. Now, I don't necessarily agree with him that the magic is completely lost when you go to those vistas, because my own perspectives have changed. But as a kid, when you first glimpse that, it's spellbinding. Spellbinding is absolutely the word for it. So I fell really hard when I heard that line, because I suddenly understood this deeper gravitas to the world with just a tinge of darkness that I'd not really experienced before, because, you know, my gateway to fantasy as a genre was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and, you know, at least not in that book. The darkness, darker themes aren't as deeply explored as, say, for example, The Silver Chair. And the music really spoke to me. That really shaped my love of Middle Earth. You know, Howard Shore's his score that's operatic in its scope and its complexity. Like that really sunk into, you know, like my subconscious and my thinking, and I couldn't stop thinking about the story. And the reason that I'm emphasizing this origin point for me is because I never really thought about this at first, because I had been introduced to the story so young. But, you know, as I grew older and I made more friends in the community who were older than me, I realized that, you know, I belonged to the camp of people that were film first fans who, you know, they saw the film first, and then, you know, as was in my case, I saw the film, told my mom, yo, I love this, and she said great, and gave me a copy of The Hobbit, and then a copy of The Lord of the Rings, then a copy of The Unfinished Tales, and then Silmarillion, which of course those latter two books I didn't read for a while. Like I said, I was introduced when I was 6. There was a small waiting period until I could understand complexities, and I had read Macbeth and Hamlet, and I felt better about reading stuff like Silmarillion and getting through the opening chapter, which is infamous. But, you know, I'm emphasizing this because I never really thought about being from the film first generation. And then, like, realizing how much it's a story that exists in multiple media forms that don't necessarily always interplay with one another, you know, because the films are their own entities, they're adaptations, and the books are their own entities. And, you know, the books themselves have all sorts of, you know, canon inconsistencies when you look at the rest of the stories. And I guess, like, I feel like I have not given enough credit to The Fellowship of the Ring as a film for getting me into Tolkien, essentially. Because I was just so keen to, like, move on and see the rest of the world. But, like, you know, I guess on behalf of all of the film first fans who went on to, you know, go and buy the entire collection of the histories of Middle Earth, I just kind of wanted to, like, talk about why I loved this film so much and how much it meant to me as the entry point, and why it was, you know, it was that score and those visuals and that script and those beautiful touching moments that got me into this story. Because in my opinion, Fellowship of the Ring is also the strongest film in the series. It's the one that stands alone best. It's the one where the theatrical is just as good as the extended. I wouldn't say the same for Two Towers and Return of the King. I think they're stronger films with the extended content. But not so Fellowship of the Ring. The extended content is excellent, but it stands well by itself as a film. Structurally, emotively, you spend more time with the Fellowship, so it's a more, like, emotionally connecting film for me, at least until we talk about the last 20 minutes of Return of the King. And it's also the film where we get to see most of these unattainable vistas that first got me into Middle Earth, because it's the period where the hobbits are just entering the world, and the world they enter is still the older side of Middle Earth, at least the older side connected to the elder days and to the elves and the elven cultures, when they pass through Rivendell and then Lothlorien, when they go through Moria, and you have this almost I mean, Middle Earth in many ways is a post-apocalyptic world, and you get that sense of things emptying out, places being depopulated, this sense of age and of the passing of time, and people like Galadriel who try and hold on to it in their one little realm. And, you know, as I grew up and started to read the books, I guess this thing that I first noticed in the films that first spoke to me, about this tension between the magic and the old days and the important struggles of the present day, which were of course generated by a power of the old days. Mr. Rings, namesake of this channel. I think it speaks to the tension that Tolkien himself has spoken of. I think it was in an interview, I believe the BBC one, where he talks about how Lord of the Rings is essentially a story about death and the struggle against, or the struggle for deathlessness, basically, and that inherent tension. And I think, as you grow older and you have more experiences in life, and you go through more difficulties, and now in our context where we're like 2.5 almost years into a global pandemic, I think that tension in the stories of the old and the present, I don't necessarily want to say the new, but I want to say the present, the past and the present, really. I think those themes weigh heavily on me, the same way as the themes of trauma that I saw at a surface level as a kid, but I understand now as an adult. Those things speak to me too in a way that they didn't before. And I guess that really speaks to the timelessness of the story and its applicability, to hark back to that often misused quote by Tolkien about allegory, where he speaks about how he dislikes allegory, but he is very much supportive of applicability, which I think which I love that. It speaks a lot to to respecting and validating reader response. And I find that it maps perfectly onto my experience of how I'm experiencing these stories and these texts and reevaluating them years later. And seeing their applicability to my life and my surroundings and my environs. And I started to think about this and conceptualize doing this channel and making this video about why I came and why I stayed, because of the anniversary last year in December. I think I was just suddenly struck by this thought about how much time had passed, and how in a way in the media landscape of Tolkien we're now seeing a similar tension of that which is past and which we're trying to hold on to, and that which is present and it's coming as part of our reality, which is in this case the Rings of Power, the new TV series. And I guess when I talk about the applicability of the stories, it's not just to like my general life as a person, but also to my life in the Tolkien fandom. I think when I was first introduced again through the films, and I was obsessed with the music, that was like my gateway into being a part of a Tolkien community. I don't want to say the Tolkien community, because I feel like there's so many sub-communities in a way, so that it's like there are Tolkien fans as a whole general collective, but our communities are so distinct and have so many different personalities that, to hark back to Verlin Flieger's Arch and the Keystone essay, Tolkien is very much the thing that both unites us and hold us together, and yet is the centerpiece that we kind of fall on both sides of. It's an interesting dynamic with the communities, and I think it's evolved. And then I explored further. I started to write fan fiction, but I didn't really do anything until I joined a fan fiction community, the Silmarillion Writers Guild. And they have been the most wonderful, supportive, inclusive network that I could have dreamed of as a young fan who didn't really know what I was doing, because a lot of them in the group are fandom veterans, and as somebody who was new, who came in at a different stage, having that mentorship was so key, I think, to my growth as a person, and my growth as somebody who can appreciate Tolkien's works and look at them critically and try to understand them and engage with them. Using fan fiction as an act of literary criticism was something that it was a concept by that I learned about basically in this community, and which was mind-blowing for me, because there's different ways of managing literary criticism. You write academic essays, but fiction is also a form of literary criticism. In many ways you're writing back to authors, and for me that was a wonderful medium to begin to explore, I think, more complex thoughts about Tolkien, and kind of like, you know, for me that was where the tension between the preserved past, that idealized beauty of the unattainable Vistas, started to become in a way attainable, but still in a way that was magical and interesting and engaging, because I was engaging with it at another level now. I was looking at it as a person, as a thinker, as somebody who's going through other life experiences that were shaping me and changing the way I looked at people and the way I looked at ideas. And then I guess the third phase for me as a fan was you know, going to in-person events like Oxenmoot, which is the annual gathering of the Tolkien Society, and meeting other fellow Tolkien fans. And that was, I think, like the next level for me, because now I was talking to people like in real life, not just online, and people of many different generations. Some of my dearest friends now are in their like 70s and 80s, and then there are my mates who are like my age, or who are, you know, just finishing high school. Like, it's beautiful, the intergenerational nature of Tolkien fandom. It's also the space in which I met people who met wonderful friends and scholars who have now become such important mentors to me on my journey. I have so much newfound appreciation and for the richness of Middle Earth and everything that one can get out of it, because you know, especially in the past like 2 years of this pandemic, I've really been interrogating you know, where I came from, where, you know, where I started with this, with the Tolkien fandom, and where I am now, and the massive journey it's taken me on as a person, as a fan, as a scholar. And I guess just kind of like thinking about how much I owe to the Fellowship of the Ring by Peter Jackson and the rest of the crew and the cast. Like, all of this, all of where I am now, all of the papers I've written and the fan fictions that I've wept over and written myself, and all the songs that I've sung, all of it were because of that film. And I've just been like, I've just been struck by such gratitude, especially in the context of, again, of today, where we have now the new teaser for Lord of the Rings and Prime. I've just been struck by such a profound sense of gratitude for the fact that, you know, we get to be alive at a time when Middle Earth is ubiquitous. It's everywhere in our cultural lexicon. It's in the books, it's in films, it's in merchandise and fan work and fan art and scholarship. It's everywhere. Middle Earth is here, and it's with us, and it's alive and breathing. It's not something that we're trying to conserve with the Ring of Power. It's here. It's the we're in the seventh, we're in the eighth age, you know. It's just, you know, we're not in the worst of all possible timelines. Let's put it that way. We can't be. And you know, really like thinking about the anniversary of the Fellowship of the Ring and how much that film means to me and how much I've enjoyed it, kind of throws into sharp relief, I think, how grateful I am that Middle Earth even exists. And I guess that sort of brings me to how I'll kind of wrap up this sort of introduction to, you know, why I'm making this channel and why I care about Tolkien and what he means to me and everything, which is kind of like how, you know, I know a lot of people are apprehensive about the new series, and don't necessarily share all of those reservations, and maybe the ones I have aren't for the same reasons. And I'll make another video about that at some point. But for me, what I'm holding on to is the fact that this series could be for somebody what the Fellowship of the Ring was for me. Maybe this series is the first way that they will, you know, see the shores of Middle Earth and step onto them, and then they'll wander, and they'll see in the distance a shining city, and they'll either think about it or they'll walk towards it and want to find out more. And that fills me with so much hope and excitement. And I guess my priority now is just to be a fan and to be a scholar that's welcoming and inclusive and excited about the world, and, you know, ready to welcome in these new fans in, you know, however they come, and in, you know, wherever they come from, however they enter the world, however they see it. If people are coming to Middle Earth, I want to be on the shores there with open arms to welcome them. I guess we'll leave it there for now. I have so many other things I want to say, so many other wonderful experiences I'd like to talk about. But I hope this has been a nice introduction into me. And why I'm here. And I hope you'll stick around as I share more musings about Middle-earth. I anticipate that in the coming weeks I'll be preparing some videos about particular themes that, or characters or moments in the story that I've enjoyed, and just kind of, I guess, analyzing them and shooting the breeze with all of you about that. So yeah, I hope that you'll stay along for the ride. If you'd like to, you can subscribe to this channel and be notified when the next video is posted. And I can't wait to see you on the road that goes ever on. Bye.